your chain when you're doing these kind of bike checks, it's supposed to be on like one of these middle or taller rings because it looks better. You also want your dropper post to be up. I did neither of those two things. It's not something I think about until after and I'm editing the video and I'm done recording. I just thought about it now. So I feel like I wanted to interject and let you know about that fun fact. All right, we're gonna try to do this in one take, which is not gonna happen. So today I brought you all here to talk about this here new bike. This is my new GT Sensor trail bike. And to be honest, this sort of bike, a trail bike, is probably what I ride most often. Trail bikes to me are just a little bit more practical for daily use. This has 150 in the back, no, 140 in the back, 150 in the front. I don't really focus on numbers a whole lot. The engineers and the product people, they do all that stuff and they're pretty good at their job. So I don't really care what they do because I know in the end, the bike is gonna ride really well. When people ask me like, do I prefer like long, short reach, yada, yada, honestly, I could ride anything and have fun on it. It doesn't really matter to me. What I do say is I tend to size down on bikes. When everyone was jumping to a large size frame, I gravitated to staying with a medium because I found medium frames just kind of suit my riding style. That being said, I'll usually pair a medium frame with a long stem. So this is a 55 mil stem. I've been riding this size stem for about however long I've been riding mountain bikes. Most of this build started off as a stock GT sensor with, they're calling the build kit the Pro LE. It's kind of a mouthful. Essentially, what you need to know, that's like the top of their line bike. And it costs about $100, which is pretty reasonable for a top of line bike. Like you can get the base model of this bike for like, which is insane by today's standards. So full disclosure, GT is a channel sponsor. I really like working with GT because they have affordable bikes. So I'm not like trying to market a $50,000 bike to everyone because that just doesn't make sense. Most of this bike is a stock build. Well, it started off as a stock build. My general theory with bikes is I like to keep things pretty stock and change things as needed. There's a few things I change right from the get-go. I changed the wheels. I'm sponsored by Noble. They make amazing carbon wheel sets. For my riding style, I really want something that's gonna last and that's durable. When I used to run other wheel sets, I'd go through 2 to 3 a year. These, I can go 2 to 3 years on the same set. And on their wheels, I run Onyx hubs, which another channel sponsor. But one of the reasons why I run them is not only do you have instant engagement, but for you guys, when you're watching my videos, you don't have that annoying beehive following me down the trail. You can hear how my tires are gripping the soil, and I think that's a really important part about making these videos. If I haven't mentioned this, they are 29-inch wheels. The old sensor was my first 29er, and now basically all my bikes are 29ers. Early 29ers were really awkward to ride, but these days 29ers are actually really good. I could jump on a 27.5, I can jump on a 29, it doesn't really matter. But while I have your attention about tires, let's talk about tires. That's one of the things that I'm a little particular about. Mainly because these are the things that make contact with the ground. But I'm not particular about them in the way that you think. I really value the importance of sidewall casing most, then tire compound. And that sounds a little backwards. These days I run a double down at least, and even like for long distances, I'll ride a downhill casing tire. I just find paired with Cushcore, yes, I am running Cushcore front and back, I don't have to think about line choice. I can just kind of go put my wheels anywhere, and I know my rims aren't gonna break, I know I'm not gonna flat, and I can kind of ride the way I want to, so I have a lot of freedom on the trail. Yeah, that does make my bike a little bit heavier. The way I look at it is either I'm gonna be walking on the climbs or I'm gonna be walking on the downhills. And I'd rather walk on the climbs because the downhills are a whole lot more fun. You know, everyone has their own opinion on riding, and some people don't like the extra weight. That's fine. And this is kind of what I found works for me, and I really like it. The other thing I changed immediately when I got this bike is I did change the dropper post. Because they're speccing this bike for a medium-sized rider, I'm a little bit taller than what you would normally call a medium-sized rider. I'm only 5'10". You know, I'm at the upper end of that scale, so I can actually run a little bit longer of a dropper post. So I'm running one of PNW's dropper posts. I like them. They work flawlessly. Their lever is perfect. Not only that, I find that PNW stuff like doesn't cost that much, and I do buy a lot of my components, except for the stuff that I'm sponsored by. Most of the stuff I do buy myself because when you get free stuff, no matter what, people expect things, so I really don't like expectations, so I just don't ask for free things. And if someone offers me free things, I may take it, but more often than not, I turn it down. Where was I going? So it's funny, like as much as I like riding bikes, talking about bikes is a different thing. I can geek out over bikes with my friends, but I'm a pretty middle of the road kind of guy with my bike setup. I don't do anything too crazy. There actually is something I forgot to mention back here, and that is on this generation sensor, they have started using the universal derailleur hanger, which to me, that's a huge win. This is a derailleur hanger that almost any bike shop these days will carry. So if you are out on a ride and you damage your derailleur hanger, you can go to almost any shop and they'll have one in stock. You don't have to special order it from some obscure website that might be, you know, trying to scam you out. You can go directly to your local bike shop and pick one of these up. I don't know why this hasn't been a thing until now, but it's now a thing and I'm very thankful for it. To be honest, like most of this bike is stock. Shifters, actually the brakes aren't stock because I have the guides on my bike, but they updated the spec list to run the codes, which I actually like much better. So I might change that out, I might not. One big thing one thing some of you might notice is I have this weird thing attached to my derailleur, my shifter. It's called a cable, and it's mechanical, and it instantly changes your gear and you don't have to charge it. It's pretty sweet. And also, it's a lot cheaper. No, that's actually one of the things I'm pretty big on is practicality. Don't get me wrong, I do like wireless shifting, and one of my biggest pet peeves is internal dropper post cable routing. It's like, if you have to change the cable, it's just super annoying. For the most part, I find the wireless stuff is just, if you break a derailleur, that's a lot of money. And with the way I ride, I'm going to break things. So I don't want to be spending a lot of money on constantly replacing parts. You notice the cranks, these are Truvativ, but like, it's the same thing as the Sram's GX line. They're the exact same thing. I like them. Yes, I've bent like 3 sets already, but when I bend them, almost any shop carries a spare set, and they're really not that expensive. I've ridden bougie parts before, and bougie parts are cool because you have a unique bike. However, if you break something, it's hard to find, and it's expensive often. So I've kind of dialed back the bouginess of my bikes. I do my best to have a few color coordinated bits here and there, but most of my bike is actually pretty simple. Understated might be a good term to use, but like if you've seen all my other bike check videos, you're gonna recognize a lot of the same components because I don't change much. The bars, I'm still curmudgeon. I'm still running 31.8 diameter bars. I don't know why, but eventually when I can't find any more 31.8s, I'll jump on the trend and get some 35 mil bars, and I'll moan about it just like I moaned about getting on a 29er for the first time, and now I'm okay with it. I justify that by saying they have more flex. If you're wondering, my bars are 780, actually I don't know what these are, but usually like 785 to 780. I don't like super wide bars, and I don't like super narrow bars. Like, these are the stock GT bars. Some people do not like the way these look. I kind of like them. I don't know, like, they're bars. Like, they hold my hands in place, and they hold my grips, they hold everything I need. And if I bend these, remember the thing where they're cheap to replace? They're cheap to replace. I guess one of the bigger updates to this bike for me is this is the first time I'm running a Lyrik. I've never run a Lyrik. I've ridden a Pike and I've ridden a Zeb. So Lyrik is in the middle of that. It's a trail bike size fork, and I don't know what magic they're running on this fork, but I took this to Highland and this thing felt amazing. I still needed to put an extra token, which I still need to do in my fork. Brakes. Talking about brakes really quickly because I just noticed the rotors. Rotors, these came equipped with 200 mil rotors in the front and 180 in the back. I might bump that up to 220 in the front and 200 in the back. It hasn't bothered me yet. I like stopping, and I really like stopping power. The more stopping power I have, the better. So it's a pretty easy thing just to throw a bigger rotor on the front and a bigger rotor on the back. On my brakes, I have a little trick to silence cable routing. So with internal cable routing, it minimizes cable rattle, but still exists. It still rattles inside internal routing. So I've started adding these little pipe cleaners to deaden any vibrations, and it's made a huge difference in terms of how much noise my bike produces. So I figured I'd mention that because it's one of the few tricks that I've never seen mentioned anywhere else. For someone who's as particular about stuff as I am, I found that as I get older, I'm less and less particular about my bike setup. As long as it's not creaking, it's not making noises, it's not rattling apart. Okay, maybe I should take back the creaking part, because apparently you guys thought my old bikes were constantly creaking, even though I would take it apart basically before every video and completely disassemble it, and somehow every time I'd go to make a video, some creak would come out of nowhere. I promise, I service my bikes a lot. Maybe some rapid fire things. The pedals I'm riding are the Chromag Daggas. They are my favorite pedals, hands down. They're very expensive, but I love them. They're wide, they have these giant pins that are gonna destroy your shins if you mess up, but you're never gonna slip a pedal because they have giant pins. Tires, right now I'm running double down casing. They are the Minion DHF in the back and also a DHF in the front. Kind of a downhill thing. We used to run DHFs front and back all the time. Now I see that combination less and less frequently. And as far as compound goes, I'm literally gonna have to read. I am running max grip compound. Rear shock is the Rockshox Super Deluxe. I actually really like how Rockshox feels. It's better than a DPX because the DPX2 always failed on me. So definitely have kind of come around to going more of the Rockshox route lately. One quirk that I do on a lot of my bikes, and you can't see it from the angle, but I take a piece of blue tape and write down my shock pressures, both front and back, and I put it somewhere on my bike because I have a really hard time remembering how much I inflate my shocks to. So I think some people are going to wonder why I run a quick release clamp on my seat, because I have a up and downy seat post. The reason being is I could only find a quick release thing and I wanted to color coordinate, so that's what I went with. Not to mention, I don't know, it's just another way I can fine tune my seat height without having to get the multi-tool out, and then this is just a lot easier. So that is everything about this bike. If you want to know all the like nitty-gritty details about this bike, like the angles and stuff that I can't memorize, you can go over to GT's website and they have a whole chart of all this information. Man, I hope people don't think I'm like ragging on bikes. But I love bikes. It's just I don't know what to say about a bike. Bikes are cool. I have spoken.